Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. This is Apollo 7, and this is Bronze Stream, where we're going to be taking a look at a couple pro players, and we're going to be really looking at just the units and the buildings that they're making, and so we can understand exactly what we're looking at when we're watching other people play StarCraft. Now, you're going to be in the right place if you have no idea by what I mean by the following sentence. So Stephano starts with his with some early roach pressure, and then moves into broodlords with an infestor hit squad. If that made no sense, you're in the right place, because we're not going to be talking about like all that really high level stuff here. If that made a whole lot of sense to you, well, you're going to be getting a lot of repeat information. But I'm glad you're here. So today we're going to be looking at our Zerg player by the name of Mill.Stephano. Millennium is the team, is a mostly European team, and Stephano, he is from France. He's one of the few very prominent French players. Very interesting guy, amazing player. His opponent today on the other side is a Protoss. Startail is the name of the team. This was STSquirtle. This is the, I believe, like the semifinals of the, no, it's third and fourth place match. The series as the third and fourth place of the Red Bull BattleGrounds in Austin, Texas. So today we're going to be looking at Stephano and his play and the Zerg units themselves. So Stephano definitely someone to go look at for. So I'm gonna go ahead and start this replay. So we start, like all of our matches, we start with our main building. For Zerg, it is called the hatchery, and it creates drones. Drones are our main little worker units. So our drones are going to be using to mine our minerals down here and our Vespine gas. Now we have two other kind of units that we don't really see very often. We also have our lava. Our hatchery also produces larva, and it produces it on its own. It will just reproduce a larva every couple seconds. I think you can have a maximum of 3 though at a time, besides certain things that we're going to talk about later. But on its own, it will have like 3 larvae. And you use the larva to create all of your other units. So every unit is going to come from the hatchery. Every unit. So if you've watched the other videos, you've seen that like gateways create units and barracks create units, but here our buildings are going to allow the hatchery to make the unit. The other unit that we have out here is this wonderful floating guy. This is our Overlord. Our Overlord is a non-attacking unit. It can do absolutely no damage. It doesn't do anything except for just float there and kind of look ugly, but it also creates our food for our Zerg player. So right now he's at 10 food of 10 available, and the second number is how big of an army he can currently make, and the second army is how much of an army he currently has. So now he's 12 at 18 because he made down here another Overlord. Overlords we could put anywhere we want. They're very slow, but they can move around wherever they want. So they're used sometimes like to just scout. Here he's sending the Overlord all the way across the map, so that way he can kind of get an idea on what the opponent is doing. But if they die, that can be very dangerous, because then all of a sudden you have a lot less food. It's like 8 food per Overlord. So here we go. We got some drones, and they're going to be mining. So this purple stuff, this kind of gray purple stuff that's around the Zerg building, this is creep. Creep has 2 functions. One, every Zerg building besides the hatchery has to be built on creep. And if we look down here, we'll see that our drone just turned into a big blister. This is our spawning pool. This is our very first building that we're making here as a Zerg player, but you notice the drone is no longer here. The drone becomes the building. So a Zerg player has to kind of balance this drone, like, okay, I need this building, but that means I need to replace this drone, so that way I'm not losing out on all these minerals. And it costs minerals to make the building too. It's a very interesting dynamic for the Zerg player. But he had to build this building on this creep. He couldn't have built the building over here, for example. Creep also allows for vision. As we spread the creep throughout the map, the Zerg player will be able to keep an eye on that particular area. And we're going to see how that works out. So here we go. We got a drone. He's coming over here. He's going to go and try to expand to this other set of mineral patches, but this probe is being super annoying. So we'll just see how that works out. And the probe made, a little cameo for my Protoss video here, building a pylon. So we'll come back to that fight later on, see what's kind of going on. So we got other Overlords, we got our spawning pool. So our spawning pool is what's going to allow the hatchery to make not only more larvae, but make queens and make our larva become Zerglings. Zerglings are kind of our bread and butter of the Zerg. Like, every match is probably going to have at least a couple of Zerglings because they're very cheap. You can get 2 Zerglings for just 50 minerals, which is really, really cheap. But they are very expendable. I see those guys here pop out. But now that we have a spawning pool, our larva can morph into the Zerglings. But our hatchery can also now spawn a queen. A queen kind of has a couple different uses. One, they're a defensive unit. They can shoot the air and ground. They're pretty powerful. They have a good amount of health. But also, they can allow our hatchery to generate more larvae faster. They'll be able to, every so often, generate all of a sudden 4 more larvae. So all of a sudden, the Zerg player has this kind of pop in what they can do. That could be drones, that could be units. It all depends. That's what the Zerg player has to decide at that point. So there's our queen. And there you go. So there she went, injecting larva into that. And now, after so long, that larva is going to pop, and they're going to become available, just like any other larva, but at a much faster rate. The queen can also spawn the creep tuners. This is where that vision part comes in. She can spawn a little tuner that will start to spread the creep out, like out to here a little bit, and then it can start spreading out to here, and get not only that vision, but also units like our Zerglings go faster when they're on creep. Some units are faster than others on creep. Like the queen, for example, is actually a pretty speedy unit as long as she's on creep. As long as she's off creep, she is slow, really slow. Like, there you go. She's not moving too bad. So that's actually, no, I think she's gonna, nope, I thought she was gonna pop out of creep tournament. Nope, just getting another position. And there we go. Now all of a sudden we have much more larvae than we had before. And there she goes. She injects that larva again. It's really important for Zerg players to always be injecting larvae, because that's really where they're going to be getting most of their army from, because they can't just be constantly pumping out units like from other ones. So actually, here is a good example of what she's going to do. She's going to go over here. She's going to pop a little creep tumor out there, and she's going to hang out there. Now you notice how much lower she walks off of creep. So the creep tumor here is going to spread the creep, and this hatchery is going to generate a good ring of creep. So these two bases are going to be pretty much connected here after a while. Let's see here. What else are we making? All we're making here is drones and drones and drones and drones. You notice that we're not really making any attacking units. Really, the only attacking units we have are like a couple Zerglings still, and then our queens. Because no, he didn't really necessarily need them to do anything else. Inject larva. We haven't even gotten our Vespene geysers yet, so should be coming up here in just a second. Transferring drones. Now, you probably have seen this in other games, and like, okay, why send units? And here is actually sending me down to this base down here when they were over here. Well, each one of the mineral patches can really only handle so many workers. If there are more than 2 workers on a particular mineral patch and one tries to go to it, it's just going to move to another patch. So that's no real point of having extra workers. So usually at about usually it's about 30 to like 20 or something, 24 or 30. It becomes, you don't need any more. So here we go. We have some extractors now for our Vespene geysers. So again, those drones had to be sacrificed to do that. So he has to make more drones just to keep up with his economy. So here we go. We have a hatchery making, and it has its own larva. It's going to have its own queen. And all these bases are just going to be continuing working and building up. So our hatchery can be upgraded later on into 2 different levels. The first level after just our hatchery is our lair. Our lair allows for our drones to become other buildings. And speaking of other buildings, here we have 2 wonderful buildings coming up. First one is the Roach Warren. Roach Warrens allow the hatchery to make roaches. Easy enough. So then the larva can turn into our little roaches down here. The evolution chamber is our main upgrade unit building. So it's going to provide the upgrades for melee attacks, ranged attacks, and then armor for our ground units. Our ranged units have a different upgrade building, which I don't know if we're going to be able to see in this particular match. So there we go. We got some zealots from our Protoss that do quite a bit of damage to probes, but our queen here hopefully is going to get one. Yay, look at him die. I'm a Zerg player, so I'm going to get pretty excited about this stuff. So you notice every time, so here we look at this, and there he goes, injecting larva. Injecting larva costs 25 energy, and it takes about as long as it takes to inject the larva to hatch, then it takes to get from 1 to 25 energy. So if you ever see pretty much a queen with anything over 25 energy, that means that they kind of missed when the inject larvas, or just they say missed an inject. Really, really, really top-notch player, not to say Stephano's not top-notch because he is, will always have less than 25 energy on their queens. So that's just kind of like, it's like a do or die type thing for them. So got some overloads floating around. Here we go, converting into the layer. So now our layer here is just about done, and we'll see our drones right now can make these buildings, but none of these. As soon as the layer is done, should be, oh, I thought it was almost done. Oh no, that was the inject larva. So as soon as that's done, we're going to see our drones be able to turn into a lot of other units. So we got going on here, we got packs of Zerglings. Oh, and also each building, like in this case, the spawning pool for our Zerglings and the roach warren for our roaches, have their own sets of upgrades for that particular unit. So Zergs like to get the metabolic boost, or just called speedlings, that makes these Zerglings quite a bit faster, closer to the point that they would be if they were on creep, even when they're off creep, which makes them even faster when they're on creep. So a very important upgrade for a lot of Zerg players, because it's pretty important that they get that. They get that upgrade. So lots of Zerglings around. So far, really no roaches. And unlike other races, Zerg players can build a building and then really not have to do anything with it until they absolutely need it. So he's just sitting here and he's just making more and more drones because that's all he needs. He doesn't need any other units. He doesn't need to build this huge army if he doesn't feel like he actually needs it at all. So that's almost done. That's almost done. Okay, let's take a look at the drone. Okay, so can't make any of these, but now as soon as that pop, look at all these things that it can create. It can make other buildings, so then our hatcheries and our layers and our hives, which is the third level, be able to make all of these other types of units. So that's the third level, is the hive. That would be the very last one that it would create. Well, Apollo 7, what's this hatchery? Another hatchery going on. It's not near any minerals, and these drones are closer to this one, so what's the point of this one? Well, since our hatchery is what produces all of the units, we can make another hatchery, or what we call a macro hatchery, because they are able to then perform the act of macroing, making more units at a higher rate. Usually it's worth the investment because now they can make more drones if they need to be replaced. They can make more units in times of need. So there we go. See how much faster those guys are now? I know it's a little choppy, but they're much faster. Plus, they got little wings. Most of the upgrades, you'll actually have like some sort of visual representation of that particular upgrade. For the Zergling speed boost, they then get these little wings off to the side, and then they'll be able to. They're just running a whole lot faster, more like they were on creep. So, and here are these creep tumors just kind of spewing out. This one has not been used yet, while this one's been used up. Now, these obviously will just stay put. But this one, like for example, very well could have been used to spread the creep out even farther this way if it was really needed to. So we got some roaches. Roaches are it's a ranged unit, but they can only attack the ground. They can't shoot up. Like actual cockroaches in the real world, they're really tough to kill. They're very high armor, so they're used as meat shields very, very commonly. So so we got some roaches and some Zerglings. We're out here, probably just poking and prodding, trying to figure out what's going on. We got more economy going, and it's all good and well. Good and well. And here, got some upgrades. What do we got going on here? We got our next round of production buildings called the Infestation Pit. This allows our hive and our larva to create infestors. Infestors are a unit that are very unique in the sense that they cannot directly attack, there is no direct attack that the infestors will do, but they'll have a series of spells that they can do that can really turn the tide of a battle. We'll see what these Zerglings are up to. How much faster they are than the roaches. The roaches are very slow units. Even with a speed upgrade that they can get back from the Roachhorn, they are very, very slow. I'm going to open up my production tab. I thought it was. Oh, no, actually I paused it. Never mind. That's why that didn't open up. Just wanted to see what he is making. Nothing. Okay. Overlords just hanging out. That's what they do. Kind of chill out. Drones doing drone things. And we got another hatchery. Start mining more minerals. Very, very precarious one here. This one usually doesn't last for very long, except in long games. So I was hoping to see some infestors. So for our infestors, they have a couple upgrades that they can do. The first one is called Pathogen Glands, which allows the infestors energy, which all of these abilities that the infestors can do require this energy. And here it allows them to start with 25 more energy than they normally would. So before infestors even come out to the field, they have more energy for some of their main abilities. They also have a really fun ability called Neuroparasite, which allows you to take control of an enemy unit. Yeah, it can kind of depends on exactly how you use it, how powerful it is. Like you could take control of any unit, no buildings, but any big unit. Again, can turn the tide of battle if a key unit that could do a whole lot of damage, supposed to be doing a whole lot of damage to you, now does a whole lot of damage to its own army. As soon as the infestor dies or it wears off, well, then it's free to do whatever it was supposed to be doing before. So, so it's used kind of sparingly. So, look like our Roachhorn no longer has that one upgrade, which means that it got researched. And this last upgrade from our Zerglings hasn't been named because it requires a hive. So it requires that at least one of our buildings went from hatchery to lair to hive. And then that upgrade will actually be done. So, or it could be done. It could be researched. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to. All right. So now that we have Pathogen Glands almost done, we will see that we have some infestors already on the way. Those are roaches. Those are infestors. So we're going to see those guys kind of hobble along here in a little bit. So we got a nice big army. We got a queen out here. And instead of spending the energy to eject larvae, she's decided to go out here and start dropping these creep tumors. So that way, Stephano here has a lot more vision. Look at all this purple that you see down here in the middle minimap. He can see that all the time. So if we were to change here and go so that way we only see his vision, you see that he can see all of this. He could see this, here we go. We got a guy just hanging out over here, and we have some units here at the watchtower. So look at all this vision. He doesn't really have any units like over in right over here, but he doesn't need to because he has that creep. Here we go. Here's the infestors. So they have three main abilities. We talked about one of them, the Neuroparasite, which has to be researched. The other two they already have is one called Infested Terran, where they actually kind of like spit out these big green beach balls. And after a few seconds, there was actually like a little Terran Marine that pops out and starts attacking. But they're kind of all grotesque and misformed. The other one is called Fungal Growth. Fungal Growth is a nice AoE attack that, especially if units are really clumped up, like for example, like right here, the Zerg player can do a Fungal Growth and it will just do a lot of damage to them right there. But it's targeted. You have to target it. And it's a very limited range. And so it's not going to hit unless you really mean it and you hit that mark. So and we'll see how that work out here in the upcoming battle. We got just an observer just checking out from the Protoss. Check out the Protoss video for that. Upgrades. So we got our upgrades. We got Carapace or armor, our level 1 attack, and our level 1 range has already been attacked as well too. So let's see what's going on over here. Oh gosh, this is gonna get so laggy. Let's see if any of these. So there we go. So right there is we have the infested Terran. So right now they are just hatching. And there they pop. And so now we have these little Terran that are just going to start attacking the Protoss. They have a very limited life. They don't have a whole lot of health. But since we can get so many of them, depending on our how many infestors we have, so fast, they can do a whole lot of damage. And of course, especially for like an army like this, you know that the Zerglings, their melee units, or Roaches, we talked about those, they don't shoot up. So that means the infested Terran are the only units that'd be able to fight any air units if we had any. Likely all we have are ground units, and so it's working out really well. So this was a fun match. You see a lot of really good battles, and you just see these units swarm in. So that's the idea with the Zerg. Like if you want to play Zerg, you're wanting to play a race that can just get you tons of units very fast. It's very expensive, so you have to balance the economy really well. But just look at, like, we have just tons of stuff here, and you just win by sheer brute force. Well, that's not true. There's lots of strategy that goes on. So, all right. So that's going to be it for this particular game. We've gone over all the units that are going to be that were in this game. So check out the other Zerg videos when it comes to. We're going to be looking at some of those other units. So hopefully we saw. Kind of get an idea on how the Zerg plays. It's a very different play style than the other ones, using these hatcheries to create the units and seeing how it goes from this larva. We have to decide, is that larva going to be a drone or if it's going to become another unit? And then if it becomes a drone, we got to make that drone and we got to turn that into a building. So it's this it's a very natural type of style. You know, one feeds off of the other. So so good luck, have fun. This is Apollo 7 and the Bronze Stream.